I thank the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, and I now invite Her Excellency Linda Thomas-Greenfield, Member of Cabinet of the President of the United States and a permanent representative to the United Nations, to the podium.
Good morning. Colleagues, it's been 2 years since Russia launched its illegal, unprovoked, and brutal full-scale invasion of Ukraine. An invasion that culminated a 10-year effort to occupy Ukraine's land and subjugate its people. In the time since, we've seen Russian forces commit unspeakable brutality and crimes against humanity, and we've watched in real time as the Kremlin sought to rewrite history. Through torture and deportation, re-education and indoctrination, repression and disinformation, Russia has tried to deny Ukrainian identity, to stifle dissent, to rationalize the unconscionable. But we know the truth. We know the truth. This is not a war of liberation. This is not a war of Russian self-defense. This is not a war of last resort. It never has been. And it certainly isn't today. We continue to work around the clock to find the best course of action in the Middle East. But just as Putin is hoping Ukrainian resolve will fade, he is counting on ours to dissipate as well. And so the task before us is clear. 10 years since this campaign began, and 2 years since Russia's full-scale invasion, we must continue to stand with Ukraine and stand up for international order. And here's what that looks like. First, we must resist the false choices and equivalencies that Russia continues to throw at us in an attempt to divide us. The false notion that Ukraine bears equal responsibility for beginning the war and equal power to end it, when we know this conflict was started and this conflict wages on because of one small man. We must not grow numb to the plight of the Ukrainian people. There's a phrase I've heard tossed around recently, Ukraine fatigue. The idea that years into this war, our support and attention are faltering. And yet I cannot imagine explaining that we're tired to the people I met in Ukraine, to the woman who'd been raped by Russian soldiers and had no joy on her face, to the medical workers detained and tortured by Russian forces for weeks, and to the 10-year-old who more than anything simply wanted to go back to school and see her friends, the mother who lost her child in an attack on her home, who held her baby in her arms as she died. Colleagues, those Ukrainians, those families who cannot afford to be fatigued are counting on us to defend the United Nations Charter and hold those who violate it to account, to resist division and fatigue, to come together, to push for diplomacy, for dialogue, and for a just, durable peace, to protect life so that freedom and democracy can once again bloom in Ukraine and everywhere that is under attack. That was our charge when we gathered 2 years ago, and that is our charge today. So please, let us not falter or fail. Thank you.
The worst thing we could do so now is to play off one person's pain against another's. We would only play into the hands of those who seek to divide us, to push their ruthless agenda in the world. That is why it is nothing but cynical when at the G20 meeting in Rio just 2 days ago, the Russian foreign minister openly asked why the world is so preoccupied with Russia's war against Ukraine. Well, Ms. Lavrov, we are preoccupied with your war because your war is causing death, pain, and destruction. That Russia's brutal war against Ukraine has been raging for 2 years does not mean that we do not see the suffering of others. Political leadership means standing up to polarization, to protect our society from the poison of dehumanization. That is the message to send today here at our General Assembly. We stand with Ukraine as long as it takes, because we stand against a world of ruthlessness. We stand for a world in which a life is a life, whether Palestinian, Israeli, Sudanese, or Ukraine. Thank you.
The Minister of European and Foreign Affairs of France to the podium.
Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Mesdames les ambassadrices, Messieurs les ambassadeurs, Mesdames et Messieurs, être aux côtés de l'Ukraine, c'est d'être dans le camp du droit. C'est d'être dans le camp du droit, dans le camp de la paix, dans le camp de la sécurité. C'est être juste et humain. Comme le président de la République l'a eu l'occasion d'ailleurs de le redire aux côtés du président Zelensky lors de sa récente visite à Paris, la France se tient et se tiendra aux côtés de l'Ukraine et de son peuple. Je vous remercie.
Yes, good morning, everyone. This was an opportunity for Ukraine to reach out to all member states of the United Nations with the idea of the peace formula and the summit of the peace formula that Ukraine and Switzerland agreed to convey. So my main audience today was our fellow colleagues from Asia, from Africa, from Latin America. We want them to understand this initiative. We want them to understand that Ukraine wants peace more than anyone else, and to join this summit when the date for it is defined. So that was my expectation, to be heard and to get more countries on board of the idea of holding the summit.
Thank you so much. We have to go. How can you win the war given your deficit of ammunition and troops?
We will solve all the problems on the way to winning the war. Because if you don't solve problems, you don't win the war. But we will. Thank you.